The landscape for competitive manufacturing is in the midst of a massive power shift. China is once again the most competitive manufacturing nation in the world, both today and 5 years from now. Meanwhile, the only African country in the ranking, South Africa, is ranked 24th globally and is expected to drop further in the next 5 years. This according to the latest Global Manufacturing Competitive Index. Joining us now to discuss manufacturing competitiveness in South Africa is Mike Vincent. He's the Director for Strategy and Innovation at Deloitte Consulting. They are the authors of the index. Thank you so much for joining us. Very interesting, of course, but not surprising. Emerging markets are the future. Sketch for us the context in which you viewed, the globe and manufacturing as a sector, and where South Africa is placed within that context.
So, Karima, every year we do a global manufacturing competitiveness survey. This last year we did 550 global CEOs drawn from across the spectrum, both in terms of geographical spread as well as in terms of size and sector. What is disturbing about the review is that, as you correctly point out, South Africa was ranked 24th, but in 2010 we were 22nd. And we also asked the respondents to rate where they thought the globe would be in 5 years' time. And they ranked South Africa 25th. So there's a steady deterioration in our manufacturing competitiveness. Every day somewhere in the world somebody's making an investment call. And the real question is, from a South African perspective, will we be the beneficiaries of that investment call? Mm-hmm. And it would appear at face value that a lot of what is happening is that we are slipping down the manufacturing competitiveness league table. And what we then did was we asked the local manufacturers. We worked through the manufacturing circle, which represents a big portion of the manufacturers in South Africa, to take a look at the key drivers that had been identified by the global manufacturers, and we asked them to view it from a South African perspective and to give us their insights and their concerns and to re-rate those drivers.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about those drivers. What are the key drivers for competitiveness?
Well, look, if I just turn to the global competitiveness drivers, they ranked access to skills and talent as the #1 ranked item. And clearly that is an important aspect. And what is interesting about that is that that was ranked as #1 in both developing as well as developed economies. And then, there were 10 in total that were ranked. So the whole tax system, the economic and tax system of a country, the cost and availability of labor and materials, right through to the government investment in the sector, the health of the workforce, and the health mm-hmm. system that underpins it. So in total there were 10. What is interesting is that from a South African perspective, we ranked those slightly differently.
Mm-hmm. Take us through what those differences are.
Sure. So look, globally, there's no doubt that enhancing and growing an effective talent base was seen as crucial. Interestingly, in South Africa, though, we ranked the cost and availability of labor mm-hmm. as opposed to the skills. And that was ranked as our #1. In comparison to globally, it was ranked #3. The other one that was important to us was the local market attractiveness, where we ranked that as #2, and globally that was ranked as #8. Mm-hmm. And obviously, those were the major issues. The other thing top of mind amongst South Africans is the cost of input costs, mm-hmm. particularly
electricity.
Energy. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, when I spoke recently with the director in the Department of Trade and Industry responsible for IPAP2. One of the big issues, of course, there is the cost of electricity, particularly for manufacturers. And of course, when a manufacturer or someone in that sector goes to a bank, the big issue is getting capital for projects that take a bit longer to yield. You know, it's not a quick fix kind of investment. To what extent is the kind of energy challenges, particularly the cost of electricity in South Africa, a negative in terms of our competitiveness?
What's interesting is we should hear this week, I think, what the new tariff structure will be in South Africa. There's no doubt that the input costs are crucial to competitiveness. We've gone from being one of the cheapest in the world to being fairly expensive. You know, the pundits are saying that if we go ahead with the proposed tariff increases, we'll be right up there with places like Italy in terms of that unit cost for manufacturing. And so it plays a very important role, you know, and when we spoke to the manufacturers, they were saying that it seriously undermines our competitiveness, because what happens is that our cost base is increasing, but simultaneously we're not seeing a commensurate improvement in our productivity. And so there's a mismatch that has occurred that clearly as a country undermines our competitiveness, and energy is obviously an important component.
Now, if one talks about the issue of skills, I'm always intrigued by the fact that many people say South Africa doesn't have skills. But if you look at our automotive sector, we have top-of-the-range BMWs being manufactured here in South Africa. We have the skills to do that. Our nurses are sought after in the hospitals in Saudi Arabia, in England, and so on. What is the skills picture really like in South Africa?
Well, I think we've got world-class skills. I think there are sectors of our educational system that are on par with the best in the world. I think that when we speak to manufacturers, they tell us that a number of the skills coming into the marketplace are clearly well below international peers. And I think when the manufacturers were dealing with this matter in our survey, their view was that in order for us to be competitive, we have to do something seriously transformational when it comes to education. But having said that, it is a long-term item, and they recognized that this was no quick fix. They had some ideas in terms of how they felt that manufacturers could adopt schools in townships and become involved in schools. But of course, you know, to turn this ship around will require serious investment. It'll require political will. It will require a partnership between government, labor, and private enterprise.